Hello, hello, hello. 9 people already. Wow, that's amazing. I got in earlier, 8 minutes earlier, because I want to make sure that everything is correct when it comes to sound and all of that. Yasuniko, hello, hello. All good with the sound? You guys can hear me well? Just thumbs up. Nice, super, thanks. Perfect. So let's wait a few more minutes before we start. We have some exciting things to talk about today. Awesome. Good to hear that. So I've made a presentation for today, and it basically includes a lot of the things we have been discussing lately. Go, Barry, let's lather up. Let's do it. Let's go. Looking forward to this live. Like, it's so great to do those lives with you guys. It's always great. We have some very interesting things to talk about today. I just so I finished making the presentation some time ago, and I'm looking forward to the discussions we're going to have around that. It's based on all the things we have been discussing during the interactive workshops as well. So some very key topics. Hello, Marie. Nice to see you here. So great. Let's wait a few more minutes for people to join. Let's wait for a few more minutes until it goes 4 o'clock. So I always come in a bit earlier to make sure everything is good. I don't know if you guys remember, but I once did a live that was scheduled, and I had some technical difficulties. I was 35 minutes delayed. I was so embarrassed. It was very embarrassing, and a lot of people were waiting, and I said, I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to make sure that my sound is perfect, everything is perfect, and I get in at least 10 minutes in advance to make sure all is good. So now I always join 10 minutes before. And so good that 8 people are already here keeping me company. So that's amazing. Write down in the comments where are you watching this from? I think I know most of you, actually. Let's check the presentation. Hello, Perry. Hi, Karen. Hi, Claudia from Dallas, Texas. And you're inspiring me to start cold process soap making instead of just melt and pour. That's amazing. I'm very glad to hear that. Melt and pour, it's great for, especially if you have children around, if it's your first time making soap and you want to experiment with different scents, different additives like colorants, melt and pour is great. But cold process is where real soap making starts. Cold process and hot process. So I'm very glad that you started working with cold process. Hi, Christina from Indiana. Wow, amazing. Sonia, hi, Sonia. Karen from South Africa. That's amazing. So Karen is also a Danish name, actually. And I recently learned that South African language has roots or has similarities to other Germanic languages. So like Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, German. So that was super interesting, actually, to see that Afrikaans has these similarities to Germanic languages. Going to get a beer while we wait, Florida. Whoa, amazing. Cheers. New York, USA. Ah, you guys are amazing. Barbados. Wow. So cool. 3 minutes and we start. Always so excited about those lives. Upstate, actually, Ithaca. I didn't know there is an area in New York called Ithaca. That's super interesting. Of course, I know Ithaca, like the one, the Greek island, because I'm from Greece, but I didn't know there was also an Ithaca in New York. Hi, Perry from Ireland. Thanks so much for the live learning. So new adventure for me and always looking for advice, still trying to get a strong scent. Hello, good to see you again. And is it Patricia? Right? I really appreciate your videos. You're a wonderful teacher. Thank you so much, Christina. 2 minutes, and we start. I really appreciate you guys being here. I really do. It's super exciting to do those lives here on YouTube. We also do lives sometimes on Mondays on Google Meet, which are more interactive. And I just always enjoy doing lives. Glad you're on earlier today, as it is midnight here in Australia. Oh, wow. It's always like that with my lives, actually. I have to start doing lives a bit earlier to include people from Australia, because I remember once I did a live at 7 o'clock here, and it was actually something like it was 3 in the morning in Australia. It was 4 in the morning in Australia, and somebody put an alarm and woke up just to see this live. So that was super. I really appreciated that. Perry, could you please mention citric acid if you use it? I absolutely use citric acid, especially when it comes to dish soap. So dish soap is made with, okay, check, 100% coconut oil. You can also make it with 95% coconut oil plus 5% castor oil. That's totally fine. You usually use like something like 0% superfat. You don't want to have too much superfat because it's dish soap. And then what you do is that you use 1 to 2% citric acid, because citric acid really helps with soap scum. Soap scum is basically this thing that you get on your bathroom, on your sink, this white thing. It's basically, it's caused by all the heavy metals and certain salts that you have in tap water. So by adding citric acid, you eliminate this problem. You eliminate soap scum. And you have to add basically, what does 1 to 2% citric acid mean? It means that if you're making 1,000 grams of soap, then 1% citric acid is 10 grams. Okay, so you add 10 grams citric acid. For every gram of citric acid you add, you have to add additionally 0.62, that's 2 grams of sodium hydroxide. So if you add 10 grams of citric acid, you have to add 6.2 grams of extra sodium hydroxide. So whatever your sodium hydroxide is, you add extra 6.2 grams. That's because citric acid actually reacts with sodium hydroxide. And that's why you need to increase your sodium hydroxide amount, because some of it will actually react with citric acid. And that's how you calculate your citric acid. Did I answer your question, Karen? Is your book listed here? I don't think it is, actually. It's on my YouTube profile, on my YouTube channel. But let me see if I can put it in the chat here. Okay, I'll just put it in the chat. Yeah. Would you add it to your amazing question? This is a very important question, because I've actually tried different things and some of them didn't work. So as you know, we have our water and our lye, and we add our lye in the water. never the other way around. So what you're going to do with citric acid is that you're going to add citric acid in the water, dissolve it well. It's going to dissolve nice and easy because it's very water soluble, and then add the lye. So if you add first the lye and then the citric acid will not dissolve. You will have to heat it up. It's not easily dissolved. So first you add the citric acid in the water, and then you add the lye in the water. And now you have your water solution, your lye water solution, and you can mix it with your oils. Starting strong with amazing questions from you guys. Thank you so much. It's time to start. And first of all, thank you all for taking the time to join this live from all over the world. We have people from Australia, US, Ireland, Greece, Denmark. So that's amazing. So let's begin. I'll share my screen. So I packed a lot of information into a nice slide deck here, and this is based on our latest interactions, the latest interactions that we have had. Okay, let me read the comments. Suggestions on colors. Would you add natural colorants be cost effective? Yeah, so there are a lot of options here. So natural colorants, you can find quite a few. For example, charcoal is always a really good option because charcoal is already oxidized. It's very stable. It lasts forever. Now, there are other natural colorants that you have to be a bit more careful with because they usually degrade with light. So, for example, I have here, I don't know if it's visible through camera. Can you guys see the difference? Both of these soaps are made with carrot juice. This one here, I left it close to the window where the sunlight was hitting it. This one, it was protected from light. Can you see the difference? Can you see how one of them is way stronger yellow? Both of them are made with carrot juice, but this one is way better because it was protected. This one is way better because it was protected from light. So certain natural colorants need a bit of attention because they get degraded easily, but you can always use micas. You can always use oxides like green oxide. Those are stable because they're inorganic, meaning they do not have any carbon molecule, so they do not oxidize, they do not get degraded. So you can they basically last forever. And this is one of my favorite colorants to use, which is green oxide. Would you recommend lemon or orange citric acid? Good question. I use citric acid that actually is produced through fermentation. And it's basically completely white. It doesn't have any color. So I don't know how it is, if it's produced through citrus, through lemon, or through orange. I would assume the process is actually quite similar. But that's a really good question, Hugh. I'll put it in my notebook because I know my citric acid is produced from fermentation, but I don't know if it's lemon or orange it comes from. I'll look it up. Cool. So, and very quick introduction here and background. As you know, my story started back in 2013 with soap making, and there I was a freshman in chemical engineering department of the National Technical University of Greece. And I had an organic chemistry course, and this is where I saw the saponification for the first time, and that's what got me interested into soap. Before that, I loved great smells. I loved things that smelled amazing, but I wasn't really into ingredients and formulation. So I used to use like all-in-one shampoo as long as it smelled great. So I never cared about the ingredients that was in my products. I was basically very young, a teenager, so I only cared for things that smelled great. But it wasn't until I saw this reaction that I started looking into the chemistry of things. I started looking into formulation, and I started being interested in making things myself. So I went into soap and skincare making, and this is basically the shift that I've seen myself make, and I also seen people in this community make, that they go from someone who just copies recipes without understanding why they add what they add. And when something goes wrong, they don't know why it went wrong. They just hope that it works. So they go from someone like that to someone that what I call is a type 2 soap maker, who understands every ingredient, who understands why we add what we add and how to tweak the ratios in order to create a completely new product, and also how to diagnose failures and troubleshoot on the spot. This is basically the ultimate goal. And thanks to you, the community is growing and growing and growing. We're becoming a lot of people sharing our challenges. I'm doing these lives from time to time. I'm receiving a lot of great comments, emails from you. And through your questions, through your comments, through your experiences, I also become a better soap maker. I also become better at this. So that's the power of having a great community. And through my interactions with all of you through the past years, basically, so I started first on TikTok and Instagram, and then I started posting on YouTube, basically long format videos beginning of 2026. And I interacted with a lot of people through comments and emails and through my workshops, both online and on site. And I always see that people have the same three pain points. It always falls into those three categories. All the frustrations, all the challenges, they concentrate and fall into three major pain points. Pain point number one is oil selection overwhelm. And I'll give you an example. I received an email from William, who told me that they just started soap making, and he spent $1,500 for crazy stuff that most of them he's not going to use. And this is a very great example of, basically starting out soap making and going online, and you see that one video says buy hemp seed oil, another video says, oh, you should buy grapeseed oil or rosehip oil, or whatever, avocado oil, and then another says, oh, you should actually use cocoon butter because it's much better. And you end up being in a situation where you buy a lot of different oils, a lot of different ingredients, a shelf full of things that you barely actually gonna use, and most of them actually don't add a lot of value to your soap. Raise your hand if you actually have been in this situation, because I know I have. Thumbs up in the chat if you've actually gone through this pain point yourself. In the meantime, let me just look at the comments. I'm from Sri Lanka. Are you adding citric acid for the bar of soap? Yes. So you can add the citric acid basically in the water solution, in the lye, in the water solution before you add the lye. There you can dissolve citric acid, and then you can add the lye. Because if you first add the lye and then the citric acid, it will not dissolve so easily. When should I add honey? You can add honey at trace. So honey actually is, of course, has a lot of sugars, and honey tends to overheat your basically your soap butter. So it's better to add it at the very end, at the trace, mix, and then add your soap butter into the mold. Cool. Perfect. And let me just show you quickly here something that will be addressed. So this is exactly what I mean about oil selection overwhelm. You can see here we have 4 categories of oils. We have conditioning oils, we have cleansing oils, we have oils that add creaminess, and we also have oils that add richness to your lather. So in oils that we have, for oils that offer conditioning properties to your lather, we have many different ones. We have olive oil, sunflower oil, avocado oil, macadamia oil, rice bran oil, sweet almond oil, canola oil, argan oil, rapeseed oil, grapeseed oil, pumpkin seed oil, rosehip oil, and so on. It's not even all of these. And what's really interesting is that a lot of times people end up buying all of them without knowing what each actually does. And one simple trick here to look at is the fatty acid composition. Because when you look at the fatty acid composition, you realize what actually makes sense and what actually does not make any sense to buy. For example, olive oil is high in oleic acid, and oleic acid is the ingredient that leads to conditioning properties to your lather. It also has linoleic acid, and linoleic acid also leads to a conditioning lather. But linoleic acid also leads to something else. And that something else is something that we don't want in soap. So who can tell me what linoleic acid leads to in soap making? And why linoleic acid is a problem, and why oils high in linoleic acid are a problem for soap making environment? Write in the chat if you know. I'll just wait a few seconds. Hi Asta. Of the what? Orange spots. Yes. Thank you, Nico. So this is how orange spots look like. I always keep here a soap just to show people that basically this is oxidation. This is when your oils oxidize. And when your oils oxidize, they basically turn orange. And your oils have a higher chance of oxidizing when they have a higher concentration of linoleic acid. That's why I tell people, when you buy rice bran oil, for example, when you buy canola oil, when you buy things like grapeseed oil or pumpkin seed oil or regular sunflower oil, those have a very high concentration of linoleic acid. So they, as you see, have a very high chance of rancidity, or even rosehip oil. So it's very important on the conditioning oils to actually get oils that are low in linoleic acid and high in oleic acid. And then you will tell me, awesome, I will do that, Perry. I will get something that is high in oleic acid and low in linoleic acid. So I can either get olive oil or high oleic sunflower oil or avocado oil or macadamia oil. But pay a bit attention here to the price, because macadamia oil and avocado oil are amazing. They are very high in oleic acid, low in linoleic acid, so low chance of rancidity, good, but the price is much, much higher than olive oil, at least in Europe. There might be some other countries where you might find avocado oil being cheaper than olive oil. So it always depends on the country and the supply. So basically here, you will tell me, okay, it's more expensive than olive oil, but macadamia oil and avocado oil, they're full of amazing nutrients and antioxidants that I want into my soap. But remember, soap making is an environment of very high pH and high temperature. And in this environment, those antioxidants and those vitamins actually get degraded. So in the end, olive oil, avocado oil, and macadamia oil are not that different in a soap making environment. So avocado oil, the only extra thing that it adds compared to olive oil is that it has a very green color, so it adds a bit of a green tincture into your soap. That's all. Cool. Let's go back here and continue the presentation. Covered pain point number 1, and let's go to pain point number 2, which is one of the favorite pain points actually of everyone. I know, Patricia, you had a lot of interest into that actually. So pain point number 2 is everything around scent, and I cannot tell you how many people actually text me or email me when it comes to scent, asking me, how do I make my soap long lasting? I made a soap that smelled amazing and it stopped smelling after a while. What do I do? Do I add essential oils? Do I add fragrance oils? How do I add them? How do I deal with scents that accelerate trace? What do I do there? So everything around scent, how to make it long lasting, how to make it smell nice, how to avoid trace acceleration, when to add it, how much to add, all of that is basically on pain point number 2. And here I will give you an example from the live interactive workshop we did last Monday on Google Meet. So somebody told me, I want to make my soap smell of lime essential oil, and I want to be long lasting. So let's look at the scenarios here, because you have different scenarios here. Scenario number 1 is that you make a soap with 100% lime essential oil. Okay, good. So you make your soap butter, you add 100% lime. And this scent basically will last for maximum 2-3 weeks. It also depends on the quality of lime essential oil you get, but if you just get the typical lime essential oil, it would probably last for something like 2-3 weeks. Now, why is that? It's many reasons, but it's mainly because lime contains a substance called limonene, which is the main substance that adds this citrusy scent profile, and that substance is also very light. It's a very small molecule, and the fact that it doesn't weigh much also means that it evaporates very, very easily. And when it evaporates very, very easily, it's of course not very long lasting. Apart from that it's very light, it's also a very unstable substance. It oxidizes easily. It degrades easily when it's subjected to a high pH or a high temperature environment. So overall, it's a substance that is very, very sensitive. So let's go then to scenario number 2 on what do we do instead. So let's look at scenario number 2. Scenario number 2 is that you're basically using a base note like patchouli essential oil, because patchouli essential oil basically is an essential oil of high molecular weight, and it makes everything else more long lasting. So when you add patchouli essential oil together with something else in your essential oil blend, it will make everything else more long lasting. So you could add 20% patchouli, 20% lavender, because lavender is a middle note and it helps basically transition from the base notes to the top notes, which is the lime. And this will definitely last 4 to 6 months. But the problem is that patchouli can dominate the lime scent. So patchouli will, both patchouli and lavender will basically bring the lime scent down. So what if you actually want to make a soap that smells very strongly of lime essential oil and it's not getting dominated by other scents, but at the same time, it's very long lasting. So let's look then at scenario number 3. So scenario number 3 is that you use 8% vetiver essential oil, and vetiver essential oil is a very, very, very heavy and deep, earthy essential oil. And it smells amazing, and it actually fits very well with mint and lime. So 8% vetiver essential oil, 7% Lychea cubeba, because Lychea cubeba actually also has limonene. It also has citral, which is another compound that adds a citrusy aspect. So it's very similar to lime, but it's more long-lasting than lime. So it's good to add a bit of Lychea cubeba. It's also called Mei Chang. I will write it in the chat, actually. Mei Chang essential oil. So that's Lychea cubeba, basically. So it's very similar to lime because they both contain limonene and citral, which are these two substances. And basically, Lychea cubeba is more long-lasting than lime. That's why it's good to add it a bit to make your whole essential oil blend more long-lasting. And it doesn't dominate lime because it's very similar to lime. And then we add 5% ylang ylang. Ylang ylang is actually very floral and very soft. So it really works very well together with citrusy compounds because they are very sharp. So actually ylang ylang helps soften them out. So that's why it brings a really good balance. So scenario number 3 is a more sophisticated essential oil blend that you can make that will smell of lime and it will still be long lasting and it will not be dominated by other essential oils. Thumbs up if you follow, and if you have any questions, write them down. Let's wait a few more seconds. Super. %60 lard, 20% coconut oil, 20% castor oil. What would be wrong? 20% castor oil. That's too much castor oil. You should add maximum 5-6% castor oil. 20% will make it quite sticky. If you're using frankincense and myrrh fragrance oil and add vetiver, ylang ylang, and fir needle, what percentage would you break down in 500 gram? And would this bring out scent strong and long lasting? Yes, that's actually, it's really nice that you mentioned fir because fir actually works really well with these compounds actually. Let me just, do I have a paper here? Yes, I do have a paper. Okay, so Patricia, you are saying then vetiver, ylang ylang. Let's see. Vetiver, ylang ylang, fir needle. That's really nice. Frankincense and myrrh. So it's quite important, of course, this is a suggestion here. The best thing is to try out, and you can try out in a few drops before you add it in soap. You don't have to make a huge essential oil blend. You can just add a few drops of each essential oil in the quantities that you want. So let's say 2 drops of Fear, 1 drop of this, 1 drop of that, and see what works well. But we can just start here with a suggestion of what could be. So vetiver, I would add here maximum 5%. You don't need so much vetiver actually, because vetiver is an amazing essential oil, but you already have 2 base notes. You have frankincense and myrrh. So these are strong base notes. So you don't need vetiver to make your essential oil blend more long lasting. Ylang ylang, I would also go with something between 5 and 10%. And then Fear, I would use Fear as a top note, and I would add again something like 5 to 10%. And then the rest I would add basically frankincense and myrrh. Fear is a very interesting one here. Actually, Fear would really bring definition to this essential oil blend and bring sharpness to this essential oil blend. So let's just say that you are working with 500 grams. So that means that you need to add something like 40 to 50. Let's say you need to add 50%, 5% essential oil blend, which is quite a lot. So 5% essential oil blend in 500 grams means that you need to add a total of 25 grams of essential oil blend. Okay, 25 grams. So then you do 5% of 25 grams. Let's say 5% ylang of 25 grams. Another, I like Fear, so let's say 10%, 25 grams. And now we have basically 10, 5, we have 20%, we have 80% left. And there you can add, for example, 40% frankincense, 25 grams, and another 40% myrrh of 25 grams. That could be one suggestion. But again, you would have to try it out first in small amounts before you go to that. I may have missed what you said about sweet almond essential oil, sweet almond oil. If I used around 5%, would that be okay? That's okay. That's actually okay. I get this question a lot. So especially when people are using sunflower oil, because sunflower oil is very, very cheap. I tell them you can use sunflower oil to substitute olive oil, but don't substitute it 100%. Use it maximum in a 5 to 10% concentration. So using 5% sweet almond oil is a great concentration. Is Meitang a middle note? No, Meitang is still a top note, but it's more long-lasting than lime essential oil. And the reason for that is that Meitang has actually a very high concentration of citral, and citral is of molecular weight of 153 or 154, I don't remember, grams per mole, where usually, so this is on the higher end of top notes. So it's a heavier top note, let's say. While middle notes, they are from 160 grams per mole and above. So it's kind of, it's close to a middle note, but it's considered a top note. Would you be willing to do a session on hardware like molds, wood, silicone, or stainless steel? Of course. I mean, that's a great point, Hugh. I have a whole section on that actually in my video course, but in a few words, there's also the question, What's the easiest way to make soap? Can you make soap with whatever you have at home? And the answer is yes. But if you want to do things the right way, I would always recommend stainless steel because it does not react with lye. You can also make soap in hard plastic balls, not soft plastic, because that will deteriorate, and that works quite well. And you should never make soap in aluminum. Aluminum is the material that actually reacts with sodium hydroxide, and it's exactly the material that you want to avoid. So soft plastic, aluminum are the things that you need to avoid. Oh, I'm late. I'm watching from Spain. I have ordered the oils and the tools. I need to start making my first soap. Congratulations, Audrey. Well, that's amazing. What will your first soap be? Wood molds are great, but the oils and other materials in the wood will transfer onto the soap a few times before the soap soaks into the wood. That's right. So I actually have a wooden mold. I have both silicone molds and wooden molds. When I use my wooden mold, I always put some baking paper on top, and that works perfectly fine. I have tried in the past to not put any baking paper, but I had actually added some oil first, and the wood soaked up all the oil, and that worked okay. But it wasn't so easy to remove it from the mold. While with the baking paper, I remove it very, very easily. The first soap I made was in a milk carton. Exactly. So you can also do that. If you're making round, what mold would you suggest? Silicone mold. There are a lot of silicone molds out there with many, many different shapes, actually. Yeah, it gets a bit addictive at some point. I bought so many different silicone molds because I liked having different types of soap. Let me just show you. These are just some that I found just in front of me. You can see this is one here, like a more typical silicone mold type of soap. And then I have these ones here. And I have a homemade actually mold. Actually, I will show it to you guys. Let me bring it out. It's a really good one and it's huge. So I'll try to bring it here and show it to you. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a homemade mold. I made it so that I can make a lot of soaps at once. And I actually have two of these because I use it for my soap business and it looks like that. It's soaked with oil, so I have added oil here, but I still add baking paper because it's much, much easier to remove my soap like that. And then I have tons of silicone molds, the typical ones, of course, you find in every basically soap making supplier. But Hugh, this is, if you like making your own things, I would suggest you can make your own wooden mold like this. Let me know what do you think of this? Okay. Great, Channel Perry. Thank you for being here. Could you talk about pure beef tallow soap? I've been having troubles with my last few batches. Beef tallow soap, tell me what concentration did you use and why did you have problems? What other oils did you use? And we will troubleshoot it right away. I use an empty Pringle container for round soaps. Nice. I saw a lady make a slab soap in a cut liter tray. Yes, you can improvise. Nice wooden mold, thank you. I hope the cat litter box was not used. Yeah, I hope so too. Amazing. That's why I love these lives. Okay. Um, it's so hot. Let's talk a bit about another debatable topic. I have had this discussion with some of you. I made a video about on YouTube where I extracted my own orange peel essential, and I extracted it from oranges, from the orange peel. And as you can see here, you have your orange. This is where you get the juice that we drink. The white thing here, you don't get anything from that. And the orange thing here, the peel, this is where you have all the orange peel essential oil trapped inside here. So I made this video and I used quite a few uh, oranges, and I only got this much. You see, I only got this much essential oil from oranges. So I managed to produce my own orange essential oil, and it smells really nice. But of course, I got very little. And some people told me, Perry, is that actually sustainable? Orange peel oil, essential oil. And let's look at the numbers, and I'll let you decide. So, and then I'll tell you my opinion. Lavender essential oil has a 1% production yield, meaning that if you have 100 kilos of lavender, only 1 kilo will come out as essential oil. Only 1 kilo. Vetiver is 2% yield, meaning that if you have 100 kilos of vetiver, you will get 2 kilos out of that as oil. And the same with orange peel oil and other extracts are actually even below 1%. So, but when it comes to orange peel oil, it's actually sustainable because, in my view, because orange peel oil comes from waste oranges. So it comes from supermarkets or from cafes or from the industry where they use a lot of oranges to make orange juice. And instead of throwing it out in the trash or whatever they do with it, they use the peels to create orange peel essential oil. So orange peel, whenever you buy orange essential oil, it's actually considered a waste product. It's because it comes from wasted oranges, wasted orange peels. So from that sense, it does sound sustainable. But of course, when you look at it from the production yield and see that you actually need 100 kilos of something to make only 1 kilo of your oil, then that makes you think, wow, that doesn't sound that sustainable after all. So I think it always depends on the different oil and the different application. Very nice wooden mold. How long will it last? I have this one for 4 years. It still looks good. I keep oiling it from time to time. Oiling it really helps actually protect the wood. So overall, it looks really good. 100% tallow, 5% superfat, 33% lye concentration. The soap is very crumbly on the outside edges and gelled in the center. Silicone loaf mold in a wooden box. Mixed temperature 100 Fahrenheit, no scent or additives. Okay, let me just look how much 100% Fahrenheit is in Celsius, because I don't know. 37, okay. 100% tallow, 5% superfat, 33% lye concentration. And the soap gets very, very crumbly on the outside edges and very gelled in the center. Silicone loaf mold in a wooden box, mixed temperature, no scent or additives. So it sounds like a very normal soap to make, and actually a really nice soap to make, because this is a soap that is going to be very conditioning, very creamy, very suitable for sensitive skin, and it will also be very long lasting because beef tallow has a high concentration of palmitic acid. And at the same time, you only need to cure it for 4 weeks and not 6 months. If it was olive oil you were making, 100% olive oil, you would have to cure it for minimum 6 months. So really good formulation, no problem with the formulation. So there is a problem though with the process. So something is happening in the process of making this soap that makes it actually crumbly on the outside edges and gelled in the center. So it could be something, for example, was both your oils and lye solution at the same temperature? And did you mix until trace, until your soap actually reached trace? And how did you cure your soap? Those are 3 key questions here. So back to the essential oil discussion. Remember that this debate on essential oils and fragrance oils, which one is better? And honestly, it depends. So essential oils are natural, they're very deep, they're very complex, they have really complex profile, which is a positive thing. But at the same time, as we saw, they have a very low yield, so you need a lot of material to produce a bit of essential oil, and that's why they're super expensive. They're also labor intensive, especially like things like jasmine, where you have to hand pick each flower in order to produce a small amount of oil, and they get degraded easily in a soap making environment. While fragrance oils, they are synthetic, which is not a good thing for most people. Some of them contain phthalates, which are hormonal disruptors. But from the other side, they're very long lasting and cheap, and they're easy to produce from a sustainability point of view. Traditional chemistry is more effective than plant extraction that we do in essential oils. I personally like to use a combination of both. And when it comes to fragrance oils, I always aim to use fragrance oils without any phthalates or parabens because those are hormonal disruptors. And before we go into pain point number 3, I have something that I want to talk to you about. This is another thing that I've never done this before, actually. As you know, also, some of you here are also part of the Formulators course, which includes 20 video lessons, Soap Hub, the soap making community. It also includes a private community, lifetime access, and it has been adding a lot of value to people. And I decided for 5 days only to basically, from the 26th of August, that you're able to join the video course and bring someone for free. So you pay one price and you can bring one person, like a family member, a friend, a colleague, whoever it is, for free, because I've seen that people who make soap and skincare together with other people in a part of a community, they learn the best. I think it's the best way to learn is to basically learn together with someone else, and you can do that August 26th. And if you're interested, there is a wait list, so you have to sign up to the wait list, which is in the description below. But let's go to pain point number 3, which is also a very, very important pain point. Okay, let me first look at your comments. I used a cat litter box to make a large slab of soap before. Trays of every kind usually have rounded edges, and you'll have to reshape your soap after extracting it from the tray mold. Yes, that's that's true. Fat and oil at the same temperature. Fat and oil. What about the lye though? The lye solution, was that at the same temperature? It also turns an orange color when starting to blend that turns normal color after a minute. Interesting. What type of beef tallow do you use? Is it completely rendered or is it unrendered? What suppliers would you recommend, as it's quite difficult finding supplies, fragrance oil, etc., and also about checking pH? Loving the live, would you consider doing a weekend seminar in Denmark? Yes, absolutely, Patricia. I would definitely do that. So let's talk about suppliers. For suppliers, I use uwish.nl, and that has a lot of fragrance oils. Actually, you can find a really big variety of different fragrance and essential oils. Then I also use another website called Manske Soap. This is German. If you're in the US, then of course most people use Brambleberry. This is quite common. Would you consider doing a live seminar in Denmark? Absolutely. I would also consider doing a live, actually, a weekend seminar also online, so that a lot of people can join. I've done a few on-site soap making workshops in Denmark, and they went great. And just out of curiosity, how many of you would be interested in a weekend seminar, an online weekend seminar? Yes, lye, same temperature, deodorized beef tallow from Soaper's Choice. Okay, then Domer, I would say then you did well. You mixed your oils and lye solution at the same temperature. I would probably go for slightly lower temperature than 100 Fahrenheit, but of course it depends on the fat you use, because perhaps beef tallow needed a higher temperature to melt. And then the only reason why you get, then I would assume the only reason why you get this crumbly profile after you have, cured your soap, and after it has stayed in the mold and then cut it and cured your soap for a while, would be the mixing. Either the mixing was not sufficient to reach basically a lye trace and to make sure that your oils and lye solution have emulsified completely. So that would be my main point and reason why your soap looked crumbly. I would like to come to Denmark if I could. Yes, it would be really fun. Actually, I also saw other people telling me that they would like to. There was other people that told me that they would like to come from the US to visit Denmark and to also follow a soap making workshop. But this is something that I would have to plan basically at least 4 to 6 months in advance, so that people have time to actually join. Online, I'm on another continent. So online seems easier for now, and on-site seems something that would take more time to plan. Do you have any ideas to use beside milk, juice, or water for the lye? Yeah, so I usually just use juices like carrot juices, watermelon juices. I use milks like coconut milk or goat milk instead of lye. These are the most common things that I have used to make soap. I cannot think of other things that you can replace your lye water with that make sense. For example, you could use chamomile tea, but again, this is a bit questionable because chamomile tea has a lot of antioxidants, a lot of vitamins and interesting materials, but ingredients. But when you mix them with lye, lye will degrade all of these interesting ingredients. So at the end of the week, it doesn't make any difference, and it doesn't add any value to add chamomile tea. I would love a weekend seminar. Yes, that would be amazing. Online, I'm on another continent. Okay, cool. I'll plan it then. This is something that I could plan. Can you share the link for the class registration? Sure, I'll share the link for the waitlist of the video course where you can join with someone else. It's also on the yes, it's also on the description. Some people use beer to make soap. Yes, and actually beer also helps drop the pH of your soap a bit, but not a lot. Because it was something that I always want to do, make soap suitable for the hair, but that's really, really difficult because, as you know, this here is a shampoo bar. It's also in my video course on how to make this. But the problem with shampoo, the good thing about shampoo bars is that they have a pH of 4.5 to 5, so they are pH balanced. The problem with soap is that it has a pH of 9 to 10, so you cannot really use it on your hair. But beer actually helps decrease the pH very, very slightly, but again, it's not a lot because cold process soap will always have a high pH. Otherwise, the reaction will not happen. So I've seen some people actually using beer to decrease the pH so that you can use it on your hair, but it doesn't really help. What is the difference of using different kinds of milk, for example, goat milk or cow's milk? Actually, oh wait, there's another question. Do you use 100% coconut milk to replace water? Yes, you use 100% coconut milk, but you freeze it first. You have to make sure it's frozen, because if it's not frozen, coconut milk contains fat, as all types of milks, but it also contains sugars, and sugars tend to really overheat when they come into contact with sodium hydroxide. So if you just add sodium hydroxide into milk, there is a very high chance that it will turn slightly brownish, especially when you add your oils and everything. So you have to make sure it's frozen to avoid any overheating. Some people add half water, half milk. I like to go 100% milk, but always frozen. What is the difference between the different types of milk? Thank you, Asta. That's a good question. So basically, it's the fat profile. So coconut milk compared to goat milk has a much higher fat concentration. And of course, the fat in your milk will also convert into soap and will give a different type of lather. So by looking at the different fat concentration, you can also see that you can also basically predict what the effect is going to be in your soap. I like to make soap. I like to use coconut milk because it's very, very high in fat. I like to mix it with beef tallow as well, and it leads to a very silky and luxurious lather. So definitely, I highly recommend this. So let's go to pain point number 3. And pain point number 3 has everything to do with trace acceleration, dreaded orange spots, additives like coconut milk, Himalayan salt, and other advanced soap and skincare making recipes. And what's really interesting here with pain point number 3 is that I always basically separate the soap and skincare products because they're completely different. Soap is basically an environment of high pH and high temperature. Other skincare like creams, shampoo bars, conditioner bars, they are a pH of they are an environment of lower pH. And in other skincare products, you don't have any reaction. It's only soap where you have a reaction, where your oils completely transform into something new. In other skincare products, you have your oils into their original form. They don't react with anything else. So you have to treat those completely differently. Remember before I was telling you everything about all this grapeseed oil, pumpkin seed oil not working well in soap? Well, in a skincare environment, is different. In an environment of a hand cream, a face cream, a shampoo bar, those oils are actually in their original form. They don't oxidize easily, so it's a completely different environment. What is the most common mistake when making cold process soap? Wow, a lot. That's a lot. I would say a lot of people in the beginning buy a lot of oils without knowing which one actually works. Then I would say it's everything around scent. People buy very expensive oils, and the expensive essential oils, and then they realize that their soap does not smell anymore. And everything to do with additives, where you use additives like Himalayan salt, coconut milk, and those can actually really affect your whole process. I'm sorry I'm late. I set an alarm for the wrong time. I watched it over from the start. Mike, I have something for you, actually. This is, let me show you. I made this for you. I'll just show it again just for you. Remember that you asked me that you want to make soap that smelled of lime, and it's actually long lasting. So I'll re-show it here, but basically, as we discussed last time, if you were to use 100% lime, it would smell really nice, but it would maximum last for, the scent would maximum last for 2-3 weeks. Scenario number two is that if you make 20% patchouli, 20% lavender, and 60% lime, that will be very long lasting. But there was the problem that patchouli and a bit of lavender can actually dominate the lime scent. So I thought, I just sat down a bit on that, and I thought, what could make a very nice lime essential oil blend? And I reached to scenario number 3. And scenario number 3 is basically 8% vetiver essential oil, 5% ylang ylang, 7% Lychea cubeba, and 85% lime. Why is that? 8% vetiver essential oil is not a lot. Vetiver is very strong, very dominant. That's why we only add 8%. And it works amazingly well with citrusy and minty essential oils. Then we add Lychea cubeba, which is also called Mei Chang. And the reason we add Lychea cubeba is that it's actually very similar to lime. So they both contain limonene, they both contain citral, but Lychea cubeba is slightly more long-lasting than lime because it has a higher concentration of citral. So when you add Lychea cubeba, you actually add something that resembles lime, but it also makes lime more long-lasting. So it helps it be more long-lasting, and it doesn't overpower it because Lychea cubeba is very similar to lime. And then 5% ylang ylang is really good because ylang ylang brings a really nice balance to the strong citrusy aspect of lime and Lychea cubeba, because ylang ylang is very floral and very soft, and what it does basically, it's very creamy. Ylang ylang is super creamy, so it balances out the strong citrusy aspect of the essential oil blend very, very slightly. So that's my recommendation to you, Mike, and thanks for the question last time. Cool. I also received an email from Asta the other day, and Asta, you asked about Dead Sea salt. You made soap with Dead Sea salt. You made soap with Dead Sea salt, and there were some problems with it. So just a question for everyone. Let's say that you have to use Himalayan salt and Dead Sea salt. Can you substitute one for the other? Write in the comments. Thank you, Mike. One thing starters usually get is a film powder on their soap and assume it's lye, but it's not. Yeah, that's basically what's called this is a very typical phenomenon, and it's called soda ash. It's basically when remaining lye from your soap reacts with carbon dioxide from the environment and creates this white powder. Proper insulation completely prevents soda ash. I never use isopropyl alcohol that some people do. I just insulate my soap correctly and it doesn't happen. No, okay, let's look at that. So Himalayan salt is very high in sodium chloride. It has something like 94% sodium chloride, I think. Let me just check because I don't remember all the numbers by heart. Himalayan salt. Let me check. 96 actually, 96 to 98% sodium chloride. And sodium chloride is, as you know, commonly called salt. It's the salt we have at home. While Dead Sea salt is basically very low in sodium chloride and it's very high in magnesium and calcium. And those are, if you have them in your soap, they actually lead to the so-called soap scum. And not only that, but because it's lower in sodium chloride, you actually need to adjust your formulation. So with Himalayan salt, let's say I use 50% coconut oil, 50, it's a lot, but you have to use a high concentration of coconut oil, as you know, because Himalayan salt really reduces lather, so you have to increase coconut oil to compensate for the lather reduction. But when it comes to Dead Sea salt, it has a very low concentration of sodium chloride, and that will basically affect your whole measurements. And because it's also high in magnesium and calcium, it will also affect your lather and how much your soap lathers. So I would recommend Himalayan salt, but if you're planning to use Dead Sea salt, then you have to make certain adjustments. Should I insulate my soap that includes beef tallow and honey? Great question. So honey tends to overheat your soap butter. So if you insulate your soap with honey, there is a high chance that your soap will get really overheated in the mold. What I would personally do, because I personally like when my soap reaches a high temperature in the mold, because it reaches gel phase, and a just gel phase will make colors pop, and it will basically lead to a harder soap and a soap that is more easily removed from the mold. I would basically insulate it with honey, and then I would check it. I would check it after an hour or two to see if it has overheated. And if it's overheated, I would just remove the towel slightly and then basically put it back in again. But it's something that it's on the, a lot of people don't like insulating their soap because they don't like gel phase. I personally like it, so I would start by insulating it. What is wrong when the soap has the powder film? Is it the lye amount? It's been happening to me. There's nothing wrong about it. Like, you can still use the soap. It's basically baking soda. Remaining lye, remaining sodium hydroxide reacts with carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and creates baking soda, because you know lye is NaOH plus CO2, carbon dioxide, and that actually gives baking soda. That's all. So it's not something dangerous, but still, by properly insulating your soap, you're not allowing a lot of air to come into contact with your soap butter, and thus you're not allowing soda ash to form. Some people, what they do, I've also done this, is that you can use basically an iron, like a clothing iron. So when you use the iron, but oh, Karen, yes, you said steam iron. So you can use the steam of the iron. Once you unmold your soap and you see this white thing, you can use the steam of the iron like that, like on top of the mold. No need to touch, of course, you're not going to touch the steam iron. You're not going to touch the soap, just on top. You basically spray it with hot steam, and that removes the soda ash. So let's go to the next one. So again, when it comes to oils, I always say when you're in doubt about a certain oil and what it does in your soap, always check the fatty acid profile. For example, if you have olive oil and it reacts with sodium hydroxide, it will create sodium oleate, and this is what gives a conditioning and gentle lather to your soap. If you have coconut oil, it will have lauric and myristic acid, and those convert to sodium laurate and sodium myristate, which is basically what give a very cleansing lather to your soap. So whenever you're in doubt about something, about even when coconut milk and goat milk, even there, always check the fatty acid profile, always check the composition, and that will tell you a lot about how your soap will basically behave. And remember that saponification happens in very harsh conditions. So oleic acid reacts with sodium hydroxide, and that means that saponification always happens in a very high pH and high temperature environment. And in this environment, all the nutrients and antioxidants are actually degraded. So the only thing that saponification cares about is actually fatty acid profile. And then, as I always say, you only need 4 oils to make any soap you want. You need an oil that offers conditioning properties to your soap. You need an oil that offers cleanliness to your soap, an oil that adds creaminess and structure to your soap, and an oil that adds thickness and richness to your lather. With those 4 oils, you can tweak the ratios and create any soap product you want, from shaving soap to dish soap to sensitive skin soap to normal body soap, anything you want. I heard that if you decrease the amount of water, it will prevent soda ash, but I like soda ash on charcoal soap very much. It makes it look super cool. That's actually quite interesting. I also had a soap, not this one, that was made with charcoal and fresh avocado, basically. And one batch that I made got soda ash a few years back, and I loved it. It created a really beautiful effect. It looked beautiful. I even put it on my website because it just created this very beautiful effect with charcoal, and I really loved it. So if you can do it intentionally, then I guess that's good. Does Epsom salt react like Dead Sea salt or Himalayan salt? Thank you, Hugh. Actually, I don't know. Let me check, because I've never worked with Epsom salt myself. I work with Himalayan salt, I work with normal salt, but what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna check the composition of Epsom salt right now. Okay, so so it's quite interesting, because I can see here that pure Epsom salt does not contain any sodium chloride. So it's basically made of magnesium, sulfur, and oxygen. So it does not have any normal salt inside. It's basically a mixture of magnesium and sulfur. So I don't know how this would behave in soap. My first hypothesis is that since it's high in magnesium, it would lead to soap scum. But of course, I would have to research that a bit more before I give you a solid answer. But I will write it down. What are these 4 oils? So this can be a conditioning oil, it can be olive oil, a cleansing oil can be coconut oil. You also have babasu oil. Actually, it's easier if I show you, Patricia. So these right here are the conditioning oils. So you have olive oil, avocado oil, high oleic sunflower oil. I personally like to use olive oil as a conditioning oil. Then in the cleansing oils, you have, let me go down here, you have coconut oil, you have babasu oil, you have palm kernel oil. Those are all cleansing oils. And palm kernel oil is also a very typical ingredient when it comes to commercial soaps. So commercial soaps, if you go to the supermarket, they have palm oil and palm kernel oil. Palm oil adds creaminess and conditioning to your lather, and palm kernel oil adds cleansiness. Then the 4th category is creaminess and hardness. And this is basically oils and butters that are high in oleic, stearic, and palmitic acid. And here you have shea butter, you have cocoa butter, you have lard, you have palm oil, and you have beef tallow. So all of these are both conditioning, and they also add a lot of creaminess and structure to your lather. They also are, these oils right here, they make your soap also very, very long lasting. So if you make soap with a high concentration of beef tallow, of lard, of palm oil, or cocoa butter, because those have a high concentration of palmitic acid is not very water soluble. And because it's not very water soluble, you end up having a soap that is very long lasting because it's not very water soluble, so it lasts longer. While a soap that is with 100% coconut oil is extremely water soluble, that's why it bubbles a lot. It also tends to not be very long lasting because it just dissolves in the water very, very quickly. And the 4th category, it's the oils that add a lather boost, thickness and richness to your lather. And this is actually only one oil. If anybody found another oil that is high in ricinoleic acid, let me know, because I haven't found anything. I've also researched. There's only one called castor oil, and castor oil is high in ricinoleic acid. Once it reacts with lye, it converts to sodium ricinolate, and this is what adds a lot of thickness and richness to your lather. I've left soda ash on soap many times. I got good feedback from customers because the soap was excellent. Yes, it still works really good. Often mass production soap is hard to avoid soda ash. If the soap is awesome, most people do not care about the powdery film. Correct. Thank you, guys. That's been quite interesting again to go through this ladder. Let me just share my screen again. And just 1 second. Thank you so much for participating in this live. And again, if you are interested into joining the video course, remember to sign up for the waitlist. And from August 26th and for 5 days on forward, you will be able to join the full video course and bring someone with you for free. A family member, a friend, a colleague, whoever you want, you can bring someone with you. And you both get access to the 20 video lessons, access to Soap Hub, which is the soap making tool that I just showed you that also helps you design essential oil blends. It helps you design your own soap making recipe. It also does cost analysis for you to see how much your soap actually cost. And then the private community. So the course comes with a private community. And of course, you both get lifetime access. So I'll put the link. The link is in the description. I'll also put it here so that you can sign up, so that you get notified and updated when the offer is live. Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you being here. Love this channel. Best soap science channel on the internet. Wow, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much. Have been very patient. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for being here. Hope you can make the essential oil blend with frankincense and myrrh. And it's two essential oils that I personally love as well. So I'm really looking forward you make it and you tell me how it is. Awesome community. Thank you, Marie. I'm grateful to hear that. I put my tallow and honey soaps in the freezer. Wow. So is that after you make them so that they don't overheat? Like, why do you put them in the freezer? Thank you, Perry, for this live stream and for answering my questions. Thank you, Asta. Thank you for being here. Thank you for another great live stream. I'm off to bed for a few hours now. Yes. Thank you for being here, Sonia. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you for being here. So they don't overheat. Cool. I do that with coconut oil dish soap. So when I make soap with high concentration of coconut oil, I always place it in the fridge for around an hour or two because it tends to overheat, and when it overheats, it cracks. But beef tallow and honey, I wouldn't put it into the freezer right away. I would first insulate it, see how it looks like, and if it gets too hot, I would just remove the towel. And if it gets super hot, of course, I would put it in the fridge. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of the evening, wherever you are. Here it's 5:20 in the afternoon. Where can I find chemical compound chart for the ingredients used for cold process soap making? You can, I mean, I have, you can find it through Soap Hub. And you can also just search one by one and look at their ingredients. So search for their fatty acid profile. I have 8 cats. They all usually watch Perry Clean's live show with me. Wow. Say hi to your 8 cats. That's amazing. That's really nice to hear. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'll see you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great rest of the evening. Bye-bye.